Hello, and welcome to Power on Plants, where we help Christian leaders and kingdom entrepreneurs to fuel your body optimally with whole plant foods so you can fully live your God given calling. If you've been praying to finally feel as strong as your calling so you can completely live God's purpose for your life with maximum energy, focus, and productivity, take a deep breath. You're home now. Today's guest, Terry Edwards, is here to stir your faith and remind you of all that's possible with God's wisdom leading the way. Terry and I were introduced by our dear friend Sid Nodder, and from the very first conversation, Terry felt like family. You know, that kind of instant connection you get that only God can cause to happen? That's what happened here. Terry knows what it's like to face health challenges that make you wonder if living your full potential is even possible. But instead of giving up, she started seeking God's wisdom. And that search led her to discover simple, powerful truth of his original plan for nourishing our bodies. Her story is one of incredible transformation. Today, she shares that message of hope through her platform, Eat Plant-Based, helping others experience lasting freedom and restoration of health. Terry's certified in plant-based nutrition through eCornell and the T. Colin Campbell Center for Nutrition Studies, and is a licensed Food for Life instructor with the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine. Get ready to be encouraged and equipped as Terry shares what's possible when faith actually meets action, when we align our lives with God's beautiful original design for health. Terry, we are so happy to have you here with us today.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here. Thank you for asking me to participate.
Yes, we have
Absolutely.
just loved this connection through Sid and getting to know you more, and we can't wait for everyone to hear your story. Now, many of our listeners are purpose-driven leaders, and they keep showing up even when they're exhausted or hurting because they care deeply about serving others. Bring us into that season in your mid 40s when you had a lot on your plate and you were facing health struggles and looking for answers. What did a typical day feel like for you at that time?
That was back in 2012. Actually, my problem started 10 years before that in my 30s. I
Okay.
started having some joint pain,
Hmm.
mostly in my hands. It's so funny because, a lot of folks have joint pain in weight bearing
Hmm.
joints, but mine started in my hands and then progressively worsened over, the next 10 years. 35 years old is really young to start
Yes.
with joint problems, but a little backup for that is that my mom has rheumatoid arthritis. And so I knew about joint problems
Hmm.
and how debilitating that can be because my mother she's almost 80 now, but she has been disabled since she was 53.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
And yeah, and I have a sister that's only 16 months
Hmm.
older than me, and she developed RA as well in her 50s. So and I had not been diagnosed with RA. I've been tested twice and came back negative, but both my mom and my sister had multiple tests that came back negative before it came back positive. So I just had that fear, that fear of I can see where I am headed,
It's
and it's
understandable.
scary. So, but in addition to the joint problems, I had other things going on. I had sleeping problems
Right.
that required me to take, at first, it was just melatonin. And then, when you take something like that, you have to keep upping the milligrams on it for it to be effective. And then I
Yes.
switched to, or sometimes alternated between that and one of the nighttime, like Tylenol or ibuprofen nighttime things. And I had to have something to help me sleep every night. Um, as well as I had adult acne, I was prescribed and was taking doxycycline
Hmm.
for years, guys, for
Yes.
years
Yes.
for adult acne. And I knew that that wasn't great long term
Right.
either. But, I had acne when I was younger and it just did not go away and it progressed. It's tough when you're in your 40s and you've got acne,
Yes.
but that's what, I was dealing with. And I was working almost a full-time job. I was an office manager at that time for a local company in our area, and just day to day, having to work and just the duties at home, even house cleaning and things when your joints are hurting. I remember leaning over the bathtub, and you know how you get on your knees and you scrub, and just thinking, at that point, maybe around 40 years old, that I wasn't going to be able to do it in 10 years or
Yes.
beyond. And 55
You know
is
what that's like.
not that old, because I
Yes.
am 58 now. So
Right. That was a
it's just a
huge
lot.
part of my story as well. I mean, I can totally
Really?
identify with that. And I think a lot of people can, to where you're just hurting. And then you're
Yeah.
told it's old age or it's your genes. You're just getting older.
Yes.
That's just what happens. And we're told so many things that I feel like just aren't true. And we live into and start believing those things. And then we
Hmm.
get afraid because some things start happening, and then fear takes over. And it's this vicious cycle. I mean, I was
Yeah.
washing my hair in the shower. I tell the story
Yeah.
about it and share this a lot, where I was washing my hair and I was just crying, tears rolling down my face, thinking, people are washing their hair right now and they're not even thinking about it. Like, there's
Mm-mm.
so many things we take for granted when we're not having the struggles.
Hmm.
So I love what you're
You're
sharing,
right.
because when you understand, what Jared says a lot of times is,
Mm.
when you know better, that's when you can do better. And that's why we're so passionate, like you are, about sharing, because we don't want people
Yeah.
to even end up in that place. But if they do, to realize there's hope.
And we want them to know that there is a possibility
Hmm.
of getting better, that you don't have to stay like this,
Mm-hmm. So,
because that's their truth, but only because they don't know the full picture.
yes.
And then when you
Hmm.
have light shed on the entire picture, then you can have the aha moment. Maybe I'm not
Hmm.
doomed to be like this for the rest of my life.
Right.
Yes. Yeah. And that was the scary part before you realize you have options, especially if you have a medical condition that runs in your family, and then you begin having those symptoms and you don't know that there's any other way. It's scary. It
Mhm.
really is scary,
Oh,
because you're
yeah.
looking at your family members and going, oh no. And, we know 40s is young, guys, 50s is young.
Yes.
And if we live to be, in our 90s, who knows? Or you don't even, at that point, for me, I was thinking I'm going to be lucky for the next 10 years to be still mobile. But
Yes.
my aha moment was the Forks Over Knives documentary. And I hear that from so many people,
Yes.
because I think that thing was created in, I might be wrong, but I think around 2011,
Hmm.
something like that. And so it was fairly new, because for me, it was 2012,
Hmm.
and it didn't take off. I mean, I didn't know anything about it. I would still, well, I probably, hopefully would by now, but at that point, it was my daughter who was vegan for ethical reasons.
Right.
And she was young, but she had seen that documentary somehow at college and suggested that I watch it. But I didn't right away, because I didn't know what it was about. I truly had no idea. I thought it was one of those videos where it was just about the animals and,
Yes.
sadness, and that, and I was like, I'm not watching that. And so I
Right.
put it
Right.
off forever. And she kept saying, Mom, have you watched that video yet? Because I don't think I complained. I hope I didn't complain, but I would tell her, oh, something hurt or whatever. And then she would say, did you watch it?
And you say,
So I finally did. And that was my first introduction ever to plant-based nutrition. Before that, I had been going to the doctor, trying to find ways to deal with the joint pain, the medicines and everything. And, nothing was just working. And so I did try some other diet plans during that time. I did that Suzanne Summers,
hmm,
where she was like high protein. It was like, and I did do Atkins too. I did. And at one point, you guys will laugh at this because you're medical trained, but I even read the book, How to Eat Right for Your Blood Type.
yes.
And
Yes. We've heard many people
yeah,
ask about that. Yes. We've had
it's
many
crazy.
clients ask
But
about
when
that.
you're
What do you
searching
think
for
about that?
answers, I mean, that
You
search
just,
will take you,
and,
well, desperate, but it's going to take you to a lot of different things. And if you don't know, you don't know. And
mm-mm.
so
So you're
I
willing
mean,
to
Yeah.
I
try
wouldn't
whatever
laugh
it.
at that. I wouldn't
No.
fault you for it, because you're looking for answers. You don't want to just stay where you're stuck.
Right.
Yeah. Now that I look back on it, I think, oh my goodness, but you truly are searching
Yes.
and willing to try about anything.
And that's
But I
the
went through
great
all of
thing.
those phases.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You're at that place where you're willing to try whatever, but we don't want people to get in that place, right? Well, but we
Right.
were. And so we can take that knowledge and then be able to share it with people so that when you're listening to this, realize and have hope. I don't have to end up in the place where Terry was or Anita and Jarrod were, hurting all the time, struggling through the day, feeling like this is just how it's going to be, because there are answers and there are things that we know that from the Bible. And just looking at Genesis 1:29, I mean, there's so much more. Look at Sid's book where she talks about all the different scriptures that point to a whole food plant-based diet. But then we look at the science that backs it up. And we always say, where you find the place where the Bible lines up with science, you have the gold. Because you shouldn't need the science necessarily to prove it. But when it does, I mean, why wouldn't we try it? Why wouldn't we try it?
And having read all those different diets, that's part of your story. And you can tell people, I read all these different diet plans, and I know that the one that I have settled on is the correct one, the one where it lines up with scripture, but you're getting the results. And then you're living proof of it.
And then you share it with other people. Like you share it with your sister and you see it working in her life, and you share it and you start sharing with other people, with clients now, and you see lives changing and you think, this is undeniable now. There's the proof. You've seen it with your own eyes, and it makes a difference in everything.
Yeah, it's our story now.
It's our story. Absolutely. Well, if you could go back to yourself when you were 45 years old and you could whisper one truth to yourself at that point, when you were struggling with pain and the acne and extra pounds as well, you've shared with me. I mean, you were exhausted, but still pushing through the days, just trying to get things done. What would be one truth that you would share with yourself back then?
That there's hope and that God wants me well.
Yes.
Really.
Oh, yeah.
Because,
That's huge.
I tell people that so often in the Christian community, where, for me, I'm just now kind of breaking into the Christian community with the plant-based message. And I remember, I don't know, maybe 3 years ago, we had just started going to a new church. And there was a gentleman who is probably about my age, maybe a little bit older. And he actually went up, I think, at the end because he needed prayer. He had had a stroke.
Right.
He had diabetes. He had all these things. And I was new there. I did not really know anybody, but I felt called after, because he went up for everybody to pray over him, which they did.
Experienced that. Yeah.
And shortly after, as soon as church let out, I whispered to my husband, I will be right back, because I had some information in the car from the physicians committee about diabetes. So I ran out there and I got it, and I went to him, and he was sitting in the pew, and people were kind of going around and everything, but I just knelt down and I said, God doesn't want you to be sick.
So good, Terry. So good.
This is some information that may be able to help you. And I am here. I don't know you, but I am here if you have questions. So I just feel like I'm so excited with just this last year and meeting you guys and knowing Sid and others in the plant-based community who are believers. It feels like we are finally, at least for me personally, but I just see the whole movement really coming out with our faith and how it is so important with the way that we eat, our health. I'm really excited for what is going on right now and to see where it ends up going. I feel like God is on the move. I think about the Chronicles of Narnia, and they say Aslan is on the move, and he represents Jesus in those stories. And I just feel like God is on the move in the plant-based community, reaching out. Because I remember Sid telling me when I first met her how I don't know, maybe a little disheartened that she was, that Christians weren't, even in her church, in the Christian communities, were not open to plant-based nutrition. And it's early in the game for me anyway, as far as to see where it's going to go, but I'm seeing inklings of it where I think God's running after his people.
Oh,
absolutely.
Amen to that.
And the
That is
revelation
true.
of that God wants us well is huge. And I feel like the Father's really opened our eyes about that the last couple of years, not that we ever thought that God wanted us sick, but sometimes we have that idea, and it's perpetuated in our culture that, well, this sickness is just to keep you humble, or God's teaching you something.
Yes.
I mean, what father would not want his children to be alive and healthy and vibrant?
And he even says that in the word.
Yes.
Like even you as parents, as a father, you want to give good gifts to your children. How much more do I want to do that for my children? So that's his heart is wellness. We look at Yeshua, Jesus, who's the pattern of everything that Father stands for, just lived it out completely and beautifully for us. And he healed them all. It says it over and over and over again. He healed them all.
And we're not denying that sickness happens, of course, because we live in a fallen world.
Yes, we do.
Sin is still in effect on this earth.
Yes.
But that's part of the message of salvation. God made a way to restore us back, and we want people to know God wants you well. Mm-hmm. He doesn't delight in you being sick. And I think if you can really take hold of that truth, then it gives you hope, and then you realize there is something I can do. It's not just bad luck or bad genes. It's not just I'm being smited or what.
Right.
This is where I am, but that's not where I have to stay.
And then
I think that's huge.
It is huge. And spirit, soul, and body, he wants us well. So we teach plant-based to get your body well, but we also teach about getting your thoughts and feelings and desires right and in alignment with the kingdom of God, because that's when you start to see real healing on top of feeding and stewarding your body with these beautiful foods he's given us that taste better than anything we ever ate before. People are worried about, this is a real concern. How am I going to just eat grass? But when you learn and your taste buds get cleansed and you no longer have those addictive chemicals drawing you back into these foods that really weren't meant to fuel our body optimally, food-like products, right?
Exactly.
And we were talking this morning about how, you go out and you go for a bike ride or you go for a walk and you don't see Cheez-Its hanging off a tree or even oil. Like there are no bottles of oil hanging on a tree.
No boxes of Cheez-Its hanging off of a tree.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. But like you were talking about, I love how you're talking about how this person, your heart went out to them because they were there in the church really seeking for God to heal them. We all have that ability. He can powerfully step in, and he wants to powerfully step in. But think about if he comes in, if he chooses and comes in right at that moment because you're ready, your faith is aligned, you understand that he wants you well, boom, you're healed. But then if you keep living and stewarding your body in the same way, he does say go and sin no more. And I'm not saying that how we're eating is a sin. I'm not going to address all the different things that people are doing because I don't know, what you've done up until this point. And we love people and our heart is just for you to be well. But we have to look at what got us there. Like, how did we get to the place we were in our health? And I know for us, we thought we were clean eating, Terry. Like when we were the sickest and I told Jarrod, I think I'm dying. We were eating like we were going to the farms and buying. Yeah, we were buying organic and fresh milk and pasture raised and cage free and no added hormones. Not knowing stuff was.
I have an example to what I think you were explaining about. If we get healed, if we continue those same habits, what's going to happen? Those things are going to come back. So let's say you live in a house and you have questionable habits to where maybe you leave your gas stove on all the time. Something that's an obvious fire hazard, you burn your house down. Now you get put into a brand new home. It's completely restored. If you keep those same habits, you're going to potentially burn that house down again. Yeah. You're going to keep that cycle perpetuated. So there's a balance that where God has set up the world with specific principles in place, physical principles. And part of that is all the foods he's given us to enjoy to optimize our health and to optimize our lifespan so that we can bring his kingdom here and do what he's called us to do and do it effectively.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember seeing an illustration a long time ago. You guys have probably seen it. I'm not sure. Seems like one of the plant-based physicians maybe put it on social media or something, but it's a picture of a kitchen. It's, a drawing with an older man and woman in there with a big farm sink.
Okay.
And the water is running in the sink and it's overflowing into the floor, and they have mops and they're mopping, but they don't turn the water off.
That's an excellent illustration.
That goes along with what you were saying, Jarrod. If you don't turn the water off, what's causing the problem?
Right.
Then you're just cleaning constantly and not resolving the problem.
That
So,
is,
yeah, that's powerful.
yeah,
And we're told
such a
that,
great
oh, that
story.
water in the sink, that didn't matter. That's normal. It's just part of
Yeah.
aging. You know, the sink's
just
going
keep
to
doing it.
eventually fill up and overflow. Like,
Yeah.
no, turn the sink off.
It just seems so simple. And I think about creation.
Mhm.
And we know in the beginning, God gave, from everything that we know from the Bible, he gave the seeds and the plants to Adam and Eve as food. And for the
Yes.
animals,
Yes.
everything was plant-based.
Yes.
Yes.
And as far as we know, the first death was of the animal or animals that had to die to clothe Adam and Eve. So
Yes.
we can assume, and I believe that God had us plant-based in the beginning, and when heaven comes down in the end, we will go back to that perfection. So in the middle, I
Yes.
think of those as two bookends:
Mhm.
creation on one end and the end of times
Yes.
on
The
the other.
restoration.
Yes. And in between, we can eat and do. I'm not saying, people are sinful for the way that they eat or anything. He gives us permission to
Yes.
eat
Yes.
whatever that we want to. But if we know perfection on either end and what he designed us for, I don't know. I just feel like that. And we know just from our own experiences going plant-based, that's where health was found. So it just seems intuitive to
Yes.
me that that's what we would want to aim for, because God knows best.
Yes.
And he knows the ultimate creator. He knows what he created our bodies for. So yes, we have freedom, but we also suffer the consequences of
Yes.
some of that freedom sometimes.
Yes. I don't think he ever meant, I mean, we can read the Bible and see he never really meant for or wanted animals to have to die to feed us. Like that was a beautiful part of his creation. He didn't mean for them to have to die to feed us. But like you were saying, because of how things happen, they had to die to clothe people. That was the first thing that happened as a result of sin, the death of the animals. And we don't do this for the animal's sake, so to speak, but we do love and care for his creation, and we want what's best for it. But he allows us, Jared and I have talked about this a lot. God allows us to do a lot of things that weren't his original design. Like he allowed his people to have kings, but he wants to be the king of our life. So people asked for that and they wanted it. So that's what he allowed them to have. But we know that him being the king of our life is for our ultimate best and for our good. So, yeah, I think that's so important to realize that. And Jared, the thing that you and Jared were both talking about a minute ago, too, is the sink overflowing and all that. Jared had come home. He was at a conference for physician assistants.
It's like a continuing education conference.
Yeah, and he came home and he looked at me and said, I cannot do this anymore. He said, seriously, I just sat in a conference for hours where the doctor that was presenting, and he was very knowledgeable. I'm not saying he wasn't knowledgeable, but he talked about if your blood pressure is this, if their blood pressure is this, talking about your patients. If it's this number, you give them this medicine. And if it's this number, you add this medicine.
Risk stratification.
Yeah.
Depending on how high the blood pressure was, the right type of medication, the right combinations. And it just hit me. We're not really addressing the root issue.
Yes.
We keep talking about management, but never once did we talk about the pathology of what's going on underneath the surface that's causing that. Why don't we address that? And at the time, we weren't plant-based, but I just knew that in my heart, something was just off, and then stumbled upon plant-based, and right around that same time, kind of stumbled upon lifestyle medicine. I thought, what is this? And this is what I had been looking for and wanted even in my original education 25 years ago, but they don't teach that. I feel like maybe schools are starting to make a little bit of headway, but not nearly enough. And then now we realize what, at least for a large majority of people, the root cause is. And it's what we're doing, those lifestyle choices that we're making.
And we didn't go into medicine and nursing to help people manage their diseases. We went
Not if we could
into
help it. I mean, we know that some diseases require that.
Right.
We live in an imperfect world, fallen, imperfect bodies and all that. So there is some of that. but not near as much as people think.
Yeah, we want to help people get set free where they're off of their medications or at least on the lowest dose possible. And we see it happen time and again. Like that is what's normal when you get to the root cause of these things. Are you seeing the same thing with your clients?
Yeah, I actually don't. I actually don't have clients or anything. I don't coach or anything like that. But when I was teaching regularly at the hospitals, the Physicians Committee's Food for Life program.
Yes.
Yeah, we saw it all the time because I taught those classes, all the instructors do, like 4 in a series. So you did once a week, and we would have the first session. I remember one time in Asheville, North Carolina, I was teaching at a doctor's office, and we had the first class, which involved, preparing the food, and they got to eat the dinner and everything, as well as the nutrition education. And I was new at teaching, and so I just went by the curriculum, which was great and everything. But when we came back to a week later to the class, one of the participants was a lady, probably at that time in her 60s, maybe late 60s. And she said that she had had an episode because she had decided everybody in the class is going to do something different. We don't require that you go 100%. We encourage it, at least for a trial period, because that's how you're going to see the results. But you don't know what each person is going to do. You do the class and you send them home. But she came back and she had been so convinced by the first class that she was going to do it 100%, which I was all for and encouraged. But she was on medication. She was on heart medication and diabetes medication. And when she went 100% for those 7 days, it was so powerful that she had an episode with the hypoglycemic episode.
Yes.
Because her medicine was too powerful at that point. The food was working as medicine.
Yes.
And so it, in my mind, it was like double medicating yourself.
Yes.
And so she had to go to her doctor and have her medication reduced.
Yes.
Because the food was working in her favor for her health. And she saw it immediately. So after that class, I was warned. I knew at the first session, the first class of every session, tell people who were on medications, you may need to have adjustments during this time while you're doing this, because this is, it works like medicine. So that was the first, and that was early in my teaching career, the first time where I realized, because when I was, when I did it myself, I wasn't on all the different medications like she was. So that was the most powerful lesson that I learned, and was able to share with people about the power of food as working as medicine.
Yes, and think about what a great problem that is to have. I mean, don't you love offering people that problem? So it's, when you start eating plants and you go all in, here's the thing. You want to be followed by your personal healthcare provider in your local area. That's what Jarrod and I tell people. We're not going to be drawing your blood. You need to have that happening because you can get results so quickly. That's how powerful these God-given foods are, right? It's like you said, it's your medicine. See it like your medicine. So if you are adding a new medication, the other ones will probably need to be adjusted somewhat.
Exactly.
And we see people come off of the high blood pressure medications, high cholesterol.
I've taken my patients off of medications. IBS
medications, rheumatoid medications. And Jarrod says, if I'm doing my job right, what do you tell him? If I'm doing my job right.
Oh, if I'm doing my job well, you're not going to need me anymore, or at least for the majority. Again, not everybody.
Right out of a job.
Yeah. Exactly. And I tell them that. It's like, I realize I'm working myself out of a job, but nothing makes me more excited than taking somebody off a medication. And am I really working myself out of a job? No, because if they don't really need to see me other than, an occasional whatever, but not a regularly, hey, how are you doing this month? There's somebody else that needs this message.
Yes.
So then I can spread this even farther, even wider. So I love it. I absolutely love it.
Yeah.
It is wonderful. Yeah.
And I know
Absolutely.
Jarrod and I have experienced that we have gotten a lot of energy now. I mean, I have as much energy as I did in my 20s and not so in my 40s. I was pulling up the stool to cook my meals to the stove and just making a lot of adjustments to my life. So basically sitting on the couch or homeschooling my children from bed, like that's how bad my energy got. It was hard for me to go up one flight of stairs to tuck my kids into bed at night. It was so bad, and no one could tell me what was going on. And I seem to recall you saying you had the same thing with your energy, where you got a lot of your energy back. So what became possible for you, Terry, in your life, just regarding your God-given calling that you never could have imagined when you were dealing with the pain and all the other health struggles that you were dealing with back then?
Yeah, back then, it was all that I could do to do my job
Right.
and just get through the day. Because, you know, as women, we have, if you work outside the home, you have your regular job, and then you come home, and then there's house cleaning and clothes washing and dinner and all of those things. I just remember being in a perpetual state of exhaustedness,
Yes.
feeling like I needed a nap, you know, during the day, which I didn't get to do, but just being so tired. And it's funny because once I went plant-based, and for me, after watching that documentary, you know, I'd been through those other things that I had tried, so I was still a little skeptical
Right.
because when I did the other programs, Atkins and everything else, I would lose a little bit of weight, 10, 15 pounds, something like that. Which was great, but nothing ever addressed the acne or the joint problems or the sleeping problems or anything. A little bit of weight was all the results that I saw. So when I watched Forks Over Knives, I was like, okay, you know, I'll give it a try. Skeptical, but willing to do it 100% because with the other things, I did 100% as well, at least for a short period of time. I figured you can do anything for a short period of time. And that was the only way I was really going to see what changing my diet to a plant-based diet would be capable of doing for me.
Yeah.
So I said 4 weeks. I told my husband I was going to do it for 4 weeks. And I started seeing results. 2.5 weeks in, I was feeling so much better.
Yes.
And just excitement is what it did. I was feeling better, had more energy, was able to come off of the doxycycline and the nighttime medicines and everything. One of the first things I saw was, well, joints for sure, but that I was sleeping better. So all of that got me so excited. It just made me want to spread the message. You know, it's like becoming a Christian. You want to spread the message so that others can know your joy.
Yes.
And so that is
Great analogy.
It sure is a great
what it was
analogy.
all about.
Yeah.
So yeah, I actually was going to go educate my physicians. You know, I gave it some time. I can't remember now, a couple months or so. And I wanted to go back, let them do my blood work again and see. And I was just going to say, you've got to tell your patients about this because I've found the Holy Grail.
You wanted them to have the same revelation that you had had, but I remember that there was
What?
a surprise there when you shared that with them.
For sure. Yeah. I thought that they were going to be just so shocked and you know everything, but it was a practice that had a lot of physicians that were Seventh-day Adventists. So when they saw the results and they said, "What are you doing?" and I said I went plant-based, and I was so excited and I wanted them to know, and they were like, "Oh yeah, you know, a number of the physicians here in this office are vegetarians." And instead of me trying to educate them, all of a sudden I actually got a little miffed.
Yes.
Because I was thinking, why did you, if that's the case
I
and you
know.
saw me suffering,
know.
why did you not offer that
Right.
as a suggestion? And they said, because at that time, there weren't a lot of plant-based resources. Forks
Right.
Over Knives was the first thing that I knew had been out. And they said they felt like even if they believed in the power of eating plants, but even if they recommended it, they didn't think the patients would do it. They didn't have any resources to help them do it.
It's
And
awful.
so they just
Getting
didn't
me
even
worked up
try.
here. The person that created the DASH diet knew that plant-based was best, but he introduced some meat, some dairy, and all that in there because he felt like people wouldn't do it. They needed some meat to satisfy their palate. I mean,
Yeah.
that just is so intellectually dishonest.
It is.
Yeah.
I mean,
It
if you
is.
know
Big
this,
assumption.
then at least tell people so they have the option.
Yeah.
But if
That's
they think that's the best way, then that's what they're going to stick with. Some of them, I mean, some of them aren't going to do anything. But some
Right.
people, like ourselves, if we knew, we would have jumped in with that completely.
right.
Completely.
Yeah.
And
It should be an option. It should have
Yes.
been an
Yes.
option. But they didn't have the resources. That was the light bulb moment for me that changed my career.
I
Because
feel
at that time I was the office manager
Yes.
and just for regular business. But when they said they did not have any resources to help patients, I decided then that I was going to attempt to be that resource. So that's when I started taking, the classes through the Center for Nutrition Studies and then applying to the Physicians Committee and everything, because I felt like I could just learn to teach it. And then I would go to the medical offices around, including my own personal physicians, and and this is what I did. I dropped off batches of plant-based cookies.
it's just so awesome, Terry. I mean,
My
it's so
cards,
awesome.
I gave them cookies. I gave them the recipe so that they could see what was in them. I gave them my cards, and I gave them information about the classes that were coming up and where they were going to be and all of that kind of stuff. And so that's where it started. And I didn't just do it for my own physician's office. I went around town and just I had a heart for the medical community because I felt like that's where that was going to be the tip of the spear.
Yes.
And so I did teach at other facilities too, but not much. It was usually always hospitals, cancer centers, and then just doctor's offices because I felt like that's where if we could convince the physicians and be the resource for their patients, then that was going to make all the difference. And it did. That was how I got started. And in the meantime, started the website. And that was the beginning for me is wanting to break in, get my foot in the door. I really didn't. I knew it would be hard because the medical community really is a hard thing to break into and be convinced. But it was all God. It truly was all God, because even before I went for my training in DC for the Physicians Committee, I contacted our local hospital's oncology. It was Gibbs Cancer Center in Spartanburg, South Carolina. I'm in North Carolina, but we live on the state line. It was a large cancer center. And I thought, what if I could get in to the cancer center to teach? But I didn't have high hopes. We have Physicians Committee does have a cancer series. So that's what I did. I shot out the email, found out who I needed to talk to, shot out the email, and they responded. I could not believe it. I didn't know anybody. It was a cold call. But they responded. And like I said, I had not gone to training yet, but I knew I was going to be going for training. And the person who was over their community program said, go do your training in DC, come back and let's talk. And so we went through multiple meetings because they had to review all of the lectures, which were from Dr. Neil Barnard, that's part of the program, and the curriculum and everything, and approve it. And they did. And they got me in there, and they paid for it all. They paid for their patients.
That's incredible.
To take the classes.
Wow. That's incredible.
Which was amazing. Yeah, it was through grant money. Their grant money paid for those classes for years for me teaching those classes. So it was amazing.
Yes.
But that was getting the foot in the door. And once I could say I was teaching at Gibbs Cancer Center, then other medical offices opened up to me, and it was a big deal. It was huge, and it's part of my story. And and then the website took off. So when COVID hit in 2020, we were in the middle because those sessions at the cancer center were, and everywhere that I taught, were 4 classes. So you went once a week for a month. And it was March 2020, and we finished our second class at the cancer center. We had 2 more, and everything shut down. Of course, for the cancer patients as well.
Oh, it's awful.
And I concentrated, because that was a little bit scary when you teach and you can't teach anymore. And so I already had my website going and I
Yes.
really concentrated on that and God blessed it.
Oh,
People were
Terry, it's
home.
awesome.
People were worried about their health and what they could do to help
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
them fight their immune systems to fight off sickness.
Yes.
And God just did his thing and the website took off. And so now I don't teach regularly. I'm still
Mhm.
licensed. I can teach, but yeah, it's a full-time job doing
Yes,
the
it
website.
is. Yes, it is.
It's yeah,
I
so
know.
that's what I do.
And I know the leaders and entrepreneurs that are listening totally get that. And one thing I want to just point out is that you just shared leadership gold. So for everybody listening, as a Christian leader, I want you to understand what Terry has just told you, because instead of being discouraged when she found out this revelation about her doctors already knowing that plant-based worked and could have helped her, she saw a massive gap in the market and she filled it.
Opportunity.
An opportunity that she had to share what was placed on her heart or in her lap because God showed her what she needed to do when the doctors didn't. So she determined at that point basically to be an entrepreneur that offered health solutions, walking straight into the medical facility and doing what Jarrod and I call taste and see. Right? She walks in with her cookies that smelled so good.
And the brilliance of that
It's
is you were
brilliant.
doing the exact same thing that the drug reps would do. Bring samples and
Yes.
literature. You brought
Exactly.
cookies and recipes.
That's what
That
made me
is
think of it.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yes, you were following the exact same model, and
Right.
it worked.
And just saying, I'm going to be the resource that's missing in this broken system. So that strategic move is what eventually placed you as a go-to expert teaching plant-based nutrition, like you said, in the local cancer centers, and now creating your blog where you reach a lot of people. So what we love most about how God took what the enemy want to use to silence you, the pain that you went through, the acne, the rheumatoid symptoms that was preventing you from holding hands, and then the exhaustion that stole your joy, and it weaponized, that what was going on. God weaponized that into your greatest mission. And I think that's so awesome just to think about. It's your ministry now. So what would you say to leaders who are walking through their own health valley right now, not realizing that their breakthrough could become the fuel for whatever God has placed onto their hearts to do? What do you think?
I would just say always be watching and listening. God's always talking. I don't think he's silent. I think he's with us 24/7, encouraging us to, go this way or that way. The question is, are we listening?
Yes.
And that really is key. For me, it's starting my day every day, in my devotions and prayers and asking him to open my ears and open my eyes for the opportunities that he's going to present today, because he's going to present some. They're there, and we just have to be looking for them, because he'll guide us, guys. He says in his word that he has a purpose for every one of us. And I don't think that means just in our lifetime. I think that means daily.
Yes.
If we're breathing,
Marching
there's
orders.
a purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So what is that purpose?
Yes.
Have you asked him today, what is his purpose for you still being able to breathe? And there's opportunities around all of us if we're open to him.
Yes.
And I think that that's key, because what he wants us to do sometimes is not what we want to do.
Absolutely. Great
I wouldn't
point.
have probably chosen what he has done in my life from the beginning. I would have been afraid. I would have thought, I can't do this. They're not going to listen. I would have been like, Moses saying, I don't want to do it. Or, all of the great people in the Bible who were just like, I can't do this. And God's like, of course you cannot do this.
Right.
I can do this through you.
Yes.
If you will just be attentive, listen, and submit.
Daily.
Be willing to do it.
Yes.
So the opportunities are there. I think it comes down to how close are we walking with him, and can we hear him? Because he has a plan. And that's in every one of our lives.
Right.
I'm not special. I just couldn't have pictured this, but available. I think that's the
He's
key.
obedient.
As you meet with him,
Yeah.
saying, I'm available, just like Mary did when the angel came and told her that she was going to have a baby. And she, had never even been with a man. And that would have meant stoning and everything else to her. But she said, I'm available for his will, basically.
Yes.
Be it unto me as God wishes. And that's really how the attitude we all need to have, and then just be looking, and not with a no on our tip of our tongue, but of you can be rocked by some of the things he may ask you to do, but don't say no. Just say, I'm available.
Yes.
Because if he's calling you to it, he's going to equip you. And
Yes.
doesn't necessarily mean it's not going to be a bumpy ride, but he's going to be
True.
there to equip you to do that.
Yes.
Exactly. Yeah. And, even like for me, I left my job when I was teaching, even before I had the income from teaching that my previous job had provided, but I felt like that was the way that I was supposed to go. And then you run into another bump when COVID hits and I can't teach anymore. But God's faithful, like you said, Jarrod. It doesn't mean it's all going to be easy, but it does mean he is there and will bring you through every single step.
Yes.
Don't think of every problem as oh no, now it's going to crash. Think of each problem as okay, God, where do I go now? Just as another door closing, he will open another one. He'll open another door to you, because the other one wasn't going to take you where he wanted you to go anyway.
I would even suggest some of those bumps are in the road or the enemy trying to prevent you from doing what God's called you to do.
Absolutely.
And it's like, no, I'm going to overcome this struggle, because on the other side of this lays something amazing.
And I feel like for me, I struggled a lot of times with trying to go and do the things and trying to figure stuff out on my own without just spending time at his feet, falling in love with him, having the relationship that Jesus died to bring us. That's exactly why he came to die. He had to deal with sin, but that wasn't his main purpose in coming, except for the fact that it moved sin out of the way. Because sin had to be moved out of the way in order for the purpose to be fulfilled. And his whole purpose was to bring us back into right relationship with Father, that we have the privilege of having every day, of coming into his presence, talking to him, asking him to lead us and guide us. And according to John 17:3, that's the very definition of eternal life. And it starts here on this earth. That one-on-one intimacy. It's not about
Your
religion.
It's here on earth as it is in heaven.
Yes, that relationship, letting his kingdom come through us. And we can't do that trying to figure it out on our own. We have to get at his feet and get what Jarrod said, his marching orders, his loving instructions of the Father that he wants to give us for that day. And it's exactly what Jesus did. That's how he started his mornings and continued his day. I don't do anything I don't hear the Father say. So
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
that same pattern.
Absolutely. Yeah. I pray in the mornings because, part of the devotional, but one specific thing that I asked for in the prayers is because I deal with so many people, and some people are kind, some people are not kind in different situations, whether it's, virtually like we are right now, or whether it is online answering comments and emails and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
And I'm representing my Creator. Even in the plant-based world where other people are looking to me, for recipes and for, health information, I'm still representing my Creator. So I always pray in the mornings for God to set a guard for my mouth and keep watch at the gate of my lips, that everything that I would say, whether through my keyboard or on the phone or whatever, would be for his glory.
That is so good, sister. I love that. That is such good advice.
And just submit every day.
Yes, and when we're surrendered to him, and he can take our hands and our mouths and our minds and do that creative process through us, because we were created to create things, but to bring his kingdom come on earth as it is in heaven. He wants that to happen through your life as a leader. And through our lives as leaders, and anyone who's listening as a leader, it's not just about teaching plant-based, it's what's God called you to do, what's your mission, and it can have a ripple effect. That's why we're so passionate about getting that one-on-one relationship right with God, having the bread of life and the living water, and then getting the foods to steward your body well, the way God optimally intended from the very beginning. And when those things align, you start to see life come into your life, and you
when
think,
you feel better, then what will that finally allow you to do? Because it's not just about feeling better.
yes,
It's not just about looking better. I mean, those are nice, but what will that then allow you to do? Fulfill that calling.
and even the next step to that then is the ripple effect that it has on people around you, because sometimes when you start eating plant-based or living in kingdom ways, what happens is the people around you start to notice. And at first they may seem like they don't like it and they may seem resistant to it. You're not doing it to make somebody else do something. Like, always focus on yourself and what God's shown you to do. And sometimes that means standing up and doing the hard thing when there are other people around you that aren't quite supportive. But you have to realize that when they hit a wall in something, they're going to call who? Who are they going to call?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So like with us, we work with people with health. When they hit a wall with health, who are they calling? They're calling us. And it's the same thing with you as a leader. When somebody hits a wall in that thing, are you going to be prepared? Are you going to be ready because you spent time at your master's feet? And because you now have fueled your body in the way that you can actually show up because you feel good. And, you just, all these different things that you've been released from that the enemy was using to keep you stuck. Now you've replaced those foods and those things that were sabotaging you with the things that put life in your body, these life-giving foods. So,
also, too, your life just lived out is a witness that you have the truth. So when they're seeking the truth, they intuitively know where to come to get direction for that.
And then there's the ripple effect, which is what I want to ask you about. So with your sister, when she found out she was dealing with rheumatoid, what happened with that? And how did that make you feel, being able to offer something to your family that you couldn't have offered before?
Yeah, that was a funny story. My sister and I are very close, and we don't live that far from each other. So we spend a lot of time together. And she watched me healing as I went on this journey. And everybody was, we do a lot of family get-togethers, guys, and there's a lot of country cooking. We live in the South. There's just
right. We get it. Same here.
And so when I'm going to these things and taking different food and everything, there's just sort of like, oh, whatever you need to do for you kind of a thing.
Right.
But a little bit of, there was support, but not really, because they just, it was things they weren't familiar with food. But as they saw me get better, I didn't even have to preach at them about, and I had decided not to try to convert them to eating the way that I'm eating, because I figured the visual effect was going to be so much better.
Yes.
And so they watched me get well, lose weight, get everything under control. And then they started asking questions about what I was doing. And my sister was so happy for me. She'd suffered with a lot of the same medical issues that I did. And she was so happy, but she never made an attempt to try to ask me, how could she do it? Because come to find out, she's always been known as the vegetable hater in our family, because just didn't eat very nice. It was all fried chicken.
Yes. We get it.
And tickle in my throat. But yeah, she said she couldn't do it. She said that she couldn't, there wouldn't be enough food for her to survive on, because she liked her ham and she liked her chicken and her burgers and all of those things. So she didn't think that there was any hope.
Right.
But we get together on Sunday afternoons at my mom's house. And so one Sunday afternoon, we were talking about it, and I said, surely you don't hate all vegetables. And she said, pretty much I do. So I asked her if she could just name a few that she did like. And there weren't many, guys. She liked, pickles and potatoes. But as I questioned her, there were things she still does not like mushrooms.
Right.
There was a lot of things she didn't like, but there was enough. She actually likes broccoli. She could not stand Brussels sprouts, things like that. But with all of the variety of vegetables and fruits and beans and grains, there was plenty. We sat down and made lists, and there was plenty. And I remember her being very excited that day, because she thought, well, she might could see some of the same results that I was seeing after all, after she had pretty much thought that there was no possible way. And she hit it running. She and I both have a personality where we go in 100% at something, and she did, and she did so well. She came off of she was even on anxiety medicine. And I'm not saying that you'll always be able to do that, but she came off of her anxiety medications, and she just did wonderfully. She lost weight, she got healthy, and yeah, she actually helps me develop recipes now. And
Oh,
a
wow.
lot of recipes on the website are from her. She develops plant-based recipes, and I still kid her because she was the vegetable hater of the family.
That's
And now,
fun.
yeah,
And
I'm
probably
doing a
what she probably didn't realize though is that she's not necessarily going to be that way for the rest of her life. Like in that moment, she probably never conceived of, I might actually like Brussels sprouts one day.
exactly.
Yes, they think it's always going to be just this narrow range of foods that they like, and so they become resistant. And I get it. I mean, I don't know if fear is the right word, but there's some concern there. But
Yep.
then once they can start seeing the changes and, oh, wow, I actually kind of like these vegetables now when I didn't before, then they see that just there's a whole wide world of foods that will open up for them.
Yes.
I think she found, and a lot of people find, that maybe they tried a particular vegetable or something cooked a certain way, like with
True.
Brussels sprouts, maybe they
Yes.
boiled them like they used to do. I didn't care for Brussels sprouts myself before, and so you decide, I do not like Brussels sprouts, and you never eat them again. But maybe you haven't had them roasted and glazed with
Yes.
the balsamic.
Oh,
So
yeah.
there are
Yes.
so many different ways. And then you find out they actually are good. It was just one time that you tried them
A
cooked a certain
preparation.
way, and
Yeah.
then you wrote them off when it's a
Yes.
whole different ball game with different cooking methods. And she found the same thing.
Or
And
maybe
then
they
your
weren't
taste buds
fresh.
change. Yeah, or maybe they weren't fresh, like Jarrod
Yeah.
said, but your taste buds
Yeah.
also change. Like I never knew broccoli was sweet
Yeah.
before, and now you can taste the sweetness. So there's
Mhm.
so many different things about why you might like something you thought you never liked, and it could even become one of your favorites.
It could. And I think a lot of people maybe, and my sister was one of them, had been eating in the past or trying and deciding they didn't like something, like broccolis and things that were overcooked.
Yes,
And they're
yes.
True.
Especially in the South.
yeah, and they're just mushy, and they are dark looking, and are not appetizing. But if you put them in a stir fry where they still have a little bit of crunch and a lot of color, that's a whole different ball game. And that's one thing my sister found out, that she actually does like broccoli. She just doesn't. She likes it in a stir fry. So
Yes.
it's just little things that
Just-
make a huge difference.
Absolutely. Just sometimes those little tweaks can be the big
Mhm.
change that you need. And I know you were saying your doctors thought that this lifestyle might be part of it was that they didn't have the resources, and part of it was that they felt like people just wouldn't do it. Maybe they didn't have adequate support system. So, what would you tell busy leaders who think this lifestyle might require too much time or too much complexity for their demanding schedule?
Um, I think that the key is doing a lot of research. Looking for me, staying on course, especially in the beginning, was reading the books and watching the documentaries, because that works as a catalyst
Right.
to help keep the interest and show and convince you
Mhm.
of what is possible
Mhm.
if you
Mindset.
try this. And then for me, as far as sticking with it, and that it was worth the effort, was trying it and seeing the results,
Mhm.
and realizing that one, everything actually did taste good. There was a lot of trial and error. I'm not going to say every recipe that I tried was delicious, but I was convinced enough that I was going to stick with it.
Right.
But the results were what were the thing for me. I would not go back to the health that I had before ever. I would eat cardboard if I had to. Not really, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I would just the results were all
Yes.
that I needed to be my motivation and my stick to itness. And then within that, one, the goal is to stay well,
Yes.
and not be in pain. And then two, you learn to get creative with the foods and things. So it was, to me, making the different foods and learning how to do that was like an experiment. It was
Yes.
almost like science and art all coming together
Yes.
to, the science part was the nutrition,
Mm-hmm.
and the art was making food look appealing and be beautiful. Because even now, I mean, we have my family and my husband's family, we get together so much. And with the holidays coming up, I have to make things that look appealing, that
Mm-hmm.
they will even try them. Because I mean, we have a lot of family get-togethers here, and people bring dishes, and so there's a baked ham in my kitchen sitting beside, my vegan meatloaf or my lentil shepherd's pie. So the food has to look appealing to compete with that,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like it's almost like an assignment for me
I
to try to
love
convince
that.
them to at least try it
Yes.
and to see that it's actually good. So,
I
but yeah, I
love
would
it.
just say, be motivated by the results and
Yes.
stay motivated by educating yourself through books and documentaries
Yes.
and everything and it gets easier and easier over
Yes.
time.
Just realizing that it does not have to be complex, though. I feel like maybe they listened to you, Terry, and they said, I don't have time to make an experiment. Like, I need to know what to do. Well, you can do that. I mean, Jared and I have a course where we teach people like step 1, step 2, step 3, and it just makes it so much quicker and so much easier. And you have tons of recipes to get them started. We have the cookbook as well. So there's so many opportunities that if you get plugged in to the right space to be able to save time. What's one thing that you've done that's helped you to streamline things for you so that's not complex? And would you say, maybe this is even the more important question, would you say in general that now looking at it, is it harder than what you were doing before? And is it more complex? Does it take you more time now than it did before?
No, everything becomes routine. Once you change the way that you cook, it just becomes routine, and you keep things in your refrigerator and your cabinet at all times, where if you're having a busy day and you're not going to have a lot of time to make dinner, there are those handful of recipes that you keep the ingredients
Yes.
on hand, and they're recipes that take like 15 minutes, whether it's black bean chili or something that you can pull together. It's easy to drive right past those fast food restaurants because even though you're exhausted, when you get home, in 15 minutes, you can have dinner.
Yeah, we joke about it all the time. We laugh. We're like, by the time I would stop and sit in line and order the food and get home, I could have easily had the meal cooked and eaten,
Healthy.
and it would have made me feel good. But not only that, I mean, for me, taste is huge. I'm so picky about recipes and taste. And we went through some it was a struggle for us. We were thinking, okay, if this is what it's going to be, this is not going to work. But being picky has served me well. It served Jared well because he gets to be the taste
I'm the
tester.
beneficiary of her pickiness.
That's what he says. He gets to taste test more times. But I mean, it's so nice when you can have those things that are not complex. And the reality of the situation is that we believe the lie that this is complex, it's hard, and it takes a lot of time. But just like you're saying, it becomes your new routine, and you have those things you already make. I think Dr. Bernard that said, or was it McDougall? Who said that there are 9? I think it's Bernard. There are 9 that you eat on repeat.
Wheelhouse.
Well, if you're doing that, so you have your wheelhouse recipes, then would it not be simple to just start out with a new 9? So that's what we talk about, like just finding your new favorites.
Culinary expert.
Yes, and that's that
300
solid
recipes.
That solid foundation. So Terry, what would you say are your 3 go-to favorite whole food plant-based meals that you can execute consistently, just like on repeat, and you love them?
We have certain ones that we eat very regularly. One is nachos, and we make a dinner. We're not talking about like nachos with just the cheese thing, but it's a full hearty meal with the filling, which is like a taco filling I make with bulgur and beans.
Yes.
And fire roasted tomatoes. And then with my cheese sauce, I keep cheese sauce on hand all the time. I just make triple batches of it and keep some in the freezer. And so we do nachos on a regular basis, especially if we're having company, because everybody can top theirs with whatever that they want. And it just is very versatile. So there's we have a lot of company that's not plant-based, and that's one dish that goes over well.
So
all of the time.
Do you have a favorite chip that you like to use? Do you like to make them? I mean, if it's for you, do you normally make them, or do you have one that you found that just has better ingredients?
I just make them.
Okay.
It's just so easy to make if you keep the corn tortillas on hand to just slice them with a pizza slicer and spritz them with a little lime sauce and just a little seasoning on them and bake them. It just is
Yes.
so simple to do. And or you could if you wanted to. Some people, if they are completely well, the corn ones aren't gluten, but I know a lot of folks are gluten free. But they
Yes.
could even put them. You could even serve the nachos on top of a bed of greens. You really could.
Or
Because even when we're
potatoes.
doing nachos, we
Yeah.
do greens on top.
Mm-hmm.
We do purple onions on top. It's just, and we do olives too. So it's just a wonderful, hearty, colorful setup.
I love
Uh,
that. Yeah.
but in addition to that, we do the black bean burgers a good bit
Okay.
with the chipotle sauce because they're just really simple to make and very good and very filling. There's all that fiber because they're made with black beans and with whole oats.
Mm-hmm.
There's just a lot of fiber in there. So that's another one. And my easy go-to one is just doing a vegetable grain bowl. Normally for us, it's brown rice, but you could do anything, any kind of whole grain that you wanted to. And then like I've got sweet potatoes in the oven right now. So I will do brown rice, then we'll have baked sweet potatoes on top of it. And then you can mix it up. If you want to add some black beans or some other kind of beans, you can. Fresh cilantro, lime juice squeezed over the top. And then, I mean, we use tahini sometimes to
Yes.
season it, or other seasonings that you might want to do. But talk about delicious. And we'll probably slice avocados and have those on the side as well. But that's a quick. We always have rice, brown rice on hand, but then you could do farro or any other grain that you enjoy and mix it up. Mix it up with the vegetables. You could just buy frozen mixed vegetables, whether it's
Yes.
the Asian ones, not the ones with the sauce, but just frozen vegetables, and steam those. Most of them you could just steam and put them with some soy sauce and a few seasonings. Again, I love cilantro, but I know some people don't, but that's my go-to. Or just chop up some greens and some fresh onions to go on top. There's just simple ways to have a very filling and healthy meal
Absolutely.
that will sustain you, a dinner for until the next day, through the whole evening. So,
And there's
Yes.
no measuring required.
Yeah, for a lot of those.
Yeah, toss it together.
For a lot of
Yeah.
those, it's just, we call them food formulas. Just throw this in and that in. And when you know the formulas, it just gets so simple.
yeah, it's just second nature.
So, Terry, if you could sit face to face with a Christian leader who's where you were 10 years ago, what's one insight you'd offer them that could save them years of unnecessary struggle?
I think it would go back to the fact that God does not want them to be sick, that He cares, and that I would probably persuade them to consider what it was like in Genesis back in the garden and what Adam and Eve were told to eat and what obviously the animals were eating.
That's so good.
I would just, because that's where we can meet on the truth of God's word. And, that's one thing with this new cookbook. When I started it, it was just going to be another plant-based cookbook. But then the Holy Spirit laid it on my heart that it needed to be for Christian, not just for Christian people, but it needed to have a Christian focus on it because the church is sick. I mean, there are
Yes.
so many people
And it's
within
sad.
the church that are sick.
Yeah.
And guys, even when we're coming together for these church functions and bringing in
Yes.
food,
Yes.
it's not, it's contributing. It's
Yes.
contributing. There's
Absolutely.
one of the physicians that said, we go to the funerals of our loved ones, and to minister to the family, we bring in all this food
Oh, wow.
that helps put the person who
Yeah.
died in the grave anyway. I think he said we were digging our graves with our teeth.
Yes, and it
Um,
happens in the hospitals too, and the school systems. But
True.
you think about the hospitals, you
Yeah.
have open heart surgery, bypass surgery, and then you wake up and you're having sausage and biscuits and bacon, and some of them
Pork
restrict
sandwich.
that, but it's still just not, pork, but it's still not
Beans.
going to be healthy.
It makes no sense. It makes zero sense.
It doesn't.
But yeah, my heart right now is for the Christian community, leaders and otherwise.
Yes.
And so that's one reason I don't know, I feel like we're breaking ground, and really hoping that in the next couple of years, there's going to be a lot of shift there. I see it coming. I really do
we do
see it
too.
coming.
Yes.
And I'm hopeful and prayerful about it. But yeah, the cookbook that I'm working on right now, it started out one way. God said no. I shelved it.
Redirect.
Yes.
I had shelved it because my heart wasn't in it before. And then when he has guided me to add my faith to it, and the importance and the scripture and going back to Genesis and all of those things that I can now share in it, now I'm excited about it. And so much so that I've had such a hard time finding a publisher for it. I even went to a Christian publisher, and we were talking for 6 months. And then finally, and it came back recently and said, now this was a publisher that is Amish and Mennonite. It was, and they said, we are so entrenched in our traditional ways of eating with the eggs and everything that we don't think that we can sell this to our church, because we don't think that they'll do it. And I felt like, oh no, because this was the book this was the publisher I really wanted to go with, because they had published another book that wasn't plant-based that was a perfect way for somebody to add their faith into it. So I felt that I had found the answer, and that was a closed door. God said no. But then within less than 2 weeks, an agent and an editor that was previously with Penguin read the proposal and said they feel like there's a market for a Christian plant-based cookbook, and there's nothing like it out there. So now we're presenting it to Christian publishers.
Yes.
We will see. We've got to convince them that God cares about what all of us. I don't want to be so inclusive, because I do definitely want to reach the Christian community, but I want to reach everybody, because in my heart, so many of my followers maybe are not Christian. They're vegan and plant-based, but if they are caring enough about food, that they'll get the message, guys. They'll get the message of God through the cookbook. So I just see that this, I do not know what God has planned, but I do know there is movement here. And so I predict in the next 2 years, we're going to see some shifts taking place within the Christian community, heading for plant-based nutrition. I hope and pray that that's true, but I can feel it in my heart. I just do feel that in my heart. I think God is coming after his children.
Absolutely.
And he wants them healthy, and I believe he's pursuing them.
Yes, because how can his kingdom come when we're sick and all we're trying to do is just barely keep our head above water? Yet he's placed all these dreams and these missions on our hearts and our minds. And maybe you're at a place where you can't even dream yet. You have to get to that place. But I think a lot of us even have had some success in business, but you feel like you've hit this bottleneck with your health and you just can't live out all that he's called you to do. And you want to see his kingdom come through your life. And because it's exciting, there's nothing like pairing up with God and seeing what he can do through a life. It is amazing. And there's so many people out there waiting for your message.
A sick person has only one dream: to get better. But a healthy person has thousands of dreams that the Lord has put there.
Absolutely. And so if you're a Christian book publisher and you just happen to land on this page, we don't believe in coincidences. Contact Terry through her website at eatplant-based.com, because, I mean, it could be a divine appointment. You just never know.
And actually, I was going to mention too that if anybody wants, I'm giving away stuff right now. If anybody wants to subscribe to the website, just go to eatplantbased.com. You don't even have to put the hyphen in it anymore.
Oh, you don't? Eat plant-based.
Thankfully, we were able to take care of that. But yeah, I'm giving away, for anybody who subscribes, 5 show-stopping vegan holiday recipes
Oh, nice.
to impress
Yes.
those. You're probably like me. You've got guests coming that are not plant-based, and so some impressive holiday ones. And I have 5 um, dairy-free, of course, plant-based dessert recipes.
Yes.
They're in a PDF ebook, and they're free to you. If you subscribe, you'll go to the welcome. It'll send you a welcome email, and you'll get 2 free ebooks.
Okay,
for
so
later
run,
holiday.
don't walk to get those. Run, don't walk right now
Yeah.
to get those, because I'm going to tell you why. It's not just for holidays. So it may say holidays, but I'll tell you, when you have something like that is a showstopper that people will absolutely love, you want to have those in your arsenal. We call it an arsenal or a treasure chest, so that you can pull those out at any gathering. You could take them to a gathering. You could use them when other people come over to visit and you're hosting people, because that's what you want to serve. Those are those go-to meals that you want to serve. So go right now to eatplantbased.com and get those while Terry's offering them before they're gone, because you're going to want to have those in your treasure chest for sure.
Thank you. Yeah. I get excited to share the recipes because people, when you're holding their hand to get them started, that's very important.
So important.
So yeah, I love being able to share those things and give them away, and hopefully change some minds. And even if one person in the family is planning to do this, if they can get others on board, it makes it easier.
Yes. And we have one more question for you, Terry, before we go. What Bible verse about healing has been your North Star throughout this journey and continues to guide you in how you approach your health?
If I could point my camera around, it's not just about healing, but one of my favorite Bible verses is on my wall, Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the plans that I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you. So just reinforces to me that how much he cares about us, whether it's our health or the situations that we find ourselves in. He is on our side.
Yes.
And he has plans for us to prosper us in our health and in just everyday
All
life.
areas.
So that was, I just absolutely love it. Like I said, it's on my wall as a reminder, even when things maybe aren't going well. If I can just remember that this is not where he leaves me. This might be something he uses to get me to where he wants me to be.
Yes. So. And it's like we were talking about in the beginning, that part of the verse that you read, to prosper us and not to harm us. So it's not him. We have an enemy, a common enemy, who wants to keep us stuck. But we have a loving Father who wants to prosper us because he wants to bring his kingdom come to this earth through us. But just because he genuinely cares for us, he created us to be his children, to walk with him, to talk with him. That's our purpose. Like, if you're wondering what your purpose is,
intimate
this
relationship
is your purpose, and you will never find fulfillment in anything like you're going to find in that relationship with him. And I asked my friend Kimberly one time, I said, why is God calling me to do this? And I think it's the same thing for you, Terry. It's like, we live in bodies and our bodies are mortal, but why is God calling us to do this? Because he wants us to have optimal lives. He wants to for us to thrive and to be able to live our calling. She said, Anita, when you can't even think clearly, when you're barely surviving the days, what are you going to do? So I think this is just so important. Even if you think, I don't know if I could do this, try it and do Terry's method, where she mentioned 4 weeks. She just went in all in 100%, right? For 4 weeks. Right. And it can make such a big difference just to see your body changes. So friend, if you are sitting there right now and you're thinking, what if this could actually work for me? That stirring in your heart, it is not a coincidence. It is God whispering to you that your transformation story is waiting to be written. Do not let this moment pass you by. Write down just one thing today that hit your heart and take action on it this week. And then join us inside Peak Performance Network at poweronplants.com/PPN and let us know. We can't wait to celebrate your breakthrough with you. Also, I want you to take a moment to like and share this episode with someone who needs to hear it. And don't miss the treasure trove of the whole food plant-based gold that is waiting at Terry's website for you at eatplantbased.com, where Jarrod and I are so honored to contribute as guest experts. Her website is a treasure trove for you. She has tons of recipes waiting there for you. And Terry, we want to thank you for sharing your heart so generously and for reminding our listeners that their breakthrough, the one they've been praying for, it could be much closer than they think. Your story is proof that what the enemy meant for harm, God can transform into your greatest ministry. And as always, remember, you are loved, you are prayed for, and your best days are waiting for you.